watching the Mystical Green Beanie.
Hey, what's going on, dudes and dudettes? I am the Mystical Green Beanie, and as I record this, I literally just finished watching the E3 2018 Sony conference and was blown away at how amazing all of the upcoming PS4 releases look. However, as I've said on this channel before, Spider-Man is love, Spider-Man is life, and anything and everything Spider-Man related takes top priority on this channel, and I'm serious about that. I had a video about Devil May Cry 5 all lined up and ready to go, but nope! I gotta keep my priorities in check. So, we got two demos from E3, and there's a lot to unpack. As far as the first demo goes, I love seeing the Raft, and for those of you who don't know, the Raft is basically this Supermax prison for all of the Marvel supercriminals. It's kind of like Iron Heights from the DC universe, or more specifically the Flash comics, except unlike Iron Heights, the Raft is in the middle of the Hudson River, I think. Anyways, it's the Supermax prison that's operated by S.H.I.E.L.D., which lets us know that in the Insomniverse, if we're gonna call it that, hashtag Insomniverse, S.H.I.E.L.D. most likely exists, which I suppose was always to be expected because Insomniac was always very transparent with letting us know that this Spider-Man game takes place in an established Marvel universe, but we won't run into any of the other Marvel characters. So think of it like Batman Arkham Knight, where it clearly takes place in a larger DC universe, and we hear references to the Flash and Superman and Black Canary and Swamp Thing and Lex Luthor, but we never see them because it's a Batman game. And I like that approach, because this is a Spider-Man game. And while I love swinging through New York and coming across landmarks like the Sanctum Sanctorum or the Avengers Mansion, or I guess they would probably use the Avengers Tower, since the movies have popularized the idea that the Avengers operate in a tower. But whatever. The point is, it would be great to see all of these famous landmarks in the Marvel Universe, but I don't need to run into every Marvel character ever created because it's a Spider-Man game, and I want it to focus on Spider-Man. Anyways, we see Spider-Man break into the Raft, which is being completely torn apart by Electro, who frees all of the inmates from their cells to fight Spider-Man, which I thought was a really cool reference to the comics where Electro does the same thing in the first issue of The New Avengers by Brian Michael Bendis and David Finch. But speaking of Electro, I am loving his redesign. It's a great middle-of-the-road compromise for the yellow and gold costume and the leather jacket costume from the Ultimate Universe. He even has the same scar on his face from the more recent Dan Slott run. Rhino was there as well. He looked amazing. He looks a lot like the Rhino from the Ultimate Universe, where it's a giant mech suit, but Ultimate Rhino is somewhat inconsistent to what he actually is, because in the video game, which is canon to the comics, he's basically Paul Giamatti from The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where he's this little guy in a robot suit, but there are other times where he's a man wearing a suit of armor. But in this incarnation in the Insomniverse, hashtag Insomniverse, it looks like a guy wearing a suit of armor. And I like that he has a Russian accent and calls Spider-Man Spider. I thought that was a cute little nod to The Amazing Spider-Man 2, because I'm literally the only person in the entire world who actually likes that movie. We also see the Scorpion, and he looks like the Scorpion. Vulture was actually one who I was surprised to see, which I really shouldn't, because he's a top-tier Spider-Man villain. He's one of the original Sinister Six, but I always forget to lump him in with the team because he sucks. And I know that might make some people angry, specifically the people who love Spider-Man Homecoming, but seriously, the Vulture sucks. But I really like his design in the game. It looks very scary and functional. Mr. Negative also shows up in the end of the gameplay, and he beats up Spider-Man a little bit before a mysterious villain shows up, and we don't see who it is, and the demo ends. I mean, it's totally the Green Goblin. Or at the very least, it's one of the 5 bajillion Goblin villains that are in Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery, but I'm betting it's the Green Goblin because Norman Osborn has a pretty heavy presence in this game. Then there's the second demo, which was less story-based and more gameplay-focused, and it showcased the open world, and we got to see some more web-swinging action. We got to see some more of the combat, and the web-swinging looks fantastic. The combat looks a bit derivative, but I'll talk about that in a second. But as far as the web-swinging goes, it looks perfect. And that's not me trying to overhype anything, it just looks perfect, and it reminded me a lot of Spider-Man Web of Shadows, because up until now, I've always believed that Web of Shadows had the best web swinging, even though the webs very loosely stick to buildings. I think that game nails the visual style of Spider-Man's movements around the city, and there's a great blend of free-running parkour and web zip combos that really makes you feel like Spider-Man. But what this also reminds me of is the Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game, and I don't mean that in a bad way, because I've said this since the beginning, there is a great game in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but unfortunately the game was rushed and it came out the way it did. But one thing I really appreciated from that game was how realistic Spider-Man's movements were during the web swinging, because there was no double jump option or a jump boost, and that gave the web swinging a really grounded nature. And from the looks of this demo, Insomniac is taking the best aspects of the Amazing Spider-Man 2's web swinging mechanics and the web swinging mechanics of Spider-Man Web of Shadows, and fusing them together to make the perfect web swinging experience. As far as combat goes, like I said, it looks to be a little derivative, but that's not entirely a bad thing, because it looks like a more streamlined version of the combat from Web of Shadows, as well as using some of the animations from the first Amazing Spider-Man game. And again, that's not a bad thing. Web of Shadows is the best Spider-Man game we've ever gotten, and the Amazing Spider-Man, even though it's clearly a clone of Arkham Asylum, felt somewhat grounded and had a very striking visual style in combat. And this game looks like a great amalgamation of the two, because from the looks of it, triangle is the web attack button and square is the main attack button, and instead of countering enemy attacks, you dodge them, just like in Web of Shadows. Also, I'm loving the fact that you can web enemies to walls by using the long distance web attack. That's something that you could do in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, as well as pretty much all of the Treyarch Spider-Man games. I know that you could do that in Web of Shadows in Ultimate Spider-Man, but I don't remember if you could do that in Spider-Man 2. But if you could do it in Ultimate Spider-Man, then I assume you could do it in Spider-Man 2, because, well, let's be honest, Ultimate Spider-Man is basically a reskin of Spider-Man 2. Yeah, I'm excited to see that mechanic return. But something that they've added is a gadget wheel that's similar to the Arkham games, which I know some people are going to turn their nose at, but whatever. Because A, if it worked in the Arkham games, then it will definitely work here. B, don't act like the Arkham games came up with that concept. The weapon wheel is something that was in third-person shooter games long before Arkham Asylum was even put into development. And C, Spider-Man is a very gadget-oriented character. I mean, not to the degree that we see in Spider-Man Homecoming, but Spider-Man in the comics is definitely pretty teched out. I mean, he is a scientist. It makes sense that in a game that takes place 8 years into Spider-Man's career, he would have developed gadgets to help him in the field. So I'm really pumped to see how that all plays. But yeah, the game looks amazing, no pun intended. I can't wait. I know that I'm excited and I will be there day one to pick up my copy. But what about you? What were your thoughts on the demo? Did you like it? Did you not like it? And if you didn't like it, what heroin are you smoking? Wait, you don't smoke heroin. Oh, sorry. I'm not street smart. I read comics and I play video games. My parents also loved me growing up, so I don't know what these drugs kids are doing these days. Anyways, if you like this video, hit the like button, share, support the channel, and do me a favor. And he'll probably hate me for doing this, but I don't care. That other review dude's birthday is this week. I'm not going to tell you the actual date because he'll probably go into cardiac arrest if I did that. But if you could, show him some birthday love on Twitter. Go subscribe to his channel. Plus, he is covering E3 in great detail, so if you want to keep up to date with all that's happening at E3, go check him out. But yeah, guys, as always, I'm the Mystical Green Beanie. Thank you for watching, and as always, until next time, adios, nachos, adios.